being able to pay for things and be an adult as well, and to support yourself. It took me a while to recognize that I had to let go of my identity of being a corporate employee.
You work with people in corporate, or do you work with people, small businesses now?
I do work with a lot of small business owners, and in particular, creative.
Welcome, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Tracy, and hello.
What does financial independence mean to you?
Well, when you say that, I think of me starting my first business age 14, selling Avon, and that feeling of working, having my own money, and sort of earning it out of my effort, and the joy of paying it in to my sort of bank account. And I think for me it means being a grown up and being able to pay for things and be an adult as well, and to support yourself.
Definitely.
And
Sorry,
for
I
much
love
of my life, I have been, yeah, very independent. So yeah, that being able to do it yourself.
nice. I love the fact that as a teenager you put money into your bank account, by the way. I'm not quite sure I had that
Absolutely.
whole concept sorted in my teenage years. I
And do you
think it
know
was more
what,
keeping it
Tracy?
up.
Yeah, I've still got that bank account. It's got, talking about emotions, but it's got a significance for me that, there's nothing in it, but it's still there because,
Oh,
yeah,
that's nice.
yeah.
So from being so my mum sold Avon, by the way, when I was a child, so it's like it's a whole good thing to for remembrance of stuff. But so what was your journey then? Because obviously you don't sell Avon anymore, so kind of what was your journey to where you are now?
So I went to university, and I worked while I was studying, um, which I sort of had to, but the experience that I got while working really did pay off when it came to getting a job after university. And my background is in consumer media and sales. I worked for Express newspapers selling advertising space, which was very high pressure, but working in a team, and we had goals. We had about 5 goals a week of pages that we had to fill with adverts. And I did love that. It was very exciting. And then when I'd sort of finished there, I'd had enough of that. I wanted to get into fashion, was told, oh, you've got no experience, you won't get into fashion, but absolutely loved defying the recruitment agent to get a job working for BBC Close Show Live.
Oh,
And that
nice.
was the live event, which I think may still be going at the NEC in Birmingham in the UK. And it was selling the floor space to fashion and beauty brands for them to have a stand it was the largest consumer fashion and beauty event in the world at the time. Loved that, got promoted, was sales manager, then was selling sponsorship. And I got invited to a leadership and management training program where I was introduced to coaching and also something called NLP, neuro linguistic programming. Loved it because I'd always been interested in personal development, and was told I was good at it. The trainer told my MD, and it sowed the seed, or so I thought, of wanting my own business and to do something else. But I remember looking back at a course that I did while I was still at uni, which was around careers, and I'd written down age 21 that I wanted my own business, that I wanted to be helping people, giving them advice, so such, and sort of very independent. And so back then, I'd kind of visioned what I do now. And I shortly left the sort of corporate world, if you like, because I felt I'd learned everything that I could.
Okay.
And I trained professionally in coaching skills, in brain-based coaching skills, as it was then, and also did a professional qualification in NLP and started my business 21 years ago now.
It
And what a roller coaster ride, as
is.
most business owners will know, and people
Yeah.
working for themselves, it's been. But when I look back, I can connect the dots. And even as a teenager, friends, parents were sort of opening up to me. Now, I don't give us advice as a coach. I can as a trainer, but it's amazing that yeah, what I wanted, I do.
That's lovely. I love manifestation. And I love the difference, by the way, because I class myself as a mentor rather than a coach, just because my advice monster is way too big to keep it in a box somewhere. It doesn't work. And plus, I attract people who generally come for direction rather than like the inner thing of improvement inside. It's an improvement in the business. So I love that differentiation that you've just said. You can't give advice as a coach, but you can as a trainer. And I think there's a lot of people don't actually realize that there's that difference between like the two, even the two words. There's very different, isn't there? But yeah, I love the manifestation. I went to a mastermind at the beginning of the year, and I'd understand about strategic partnerships. Like we talk about them all the time. But you know, when somebody says something just that little bit differently, and it suddenly goes, oh, that's what I want. And I'd written, because it was in January, I'd written 2026, the year I'd like to do events with like-minded people that I actually like, with an exclamation mark. That's it. That was my whole thing. And I woke up the next morning, so that was Saturday morning, Sunday morning, I woke up to a text message that actually said to me, Trace, I've had this business idea going round and round in my head for ages. He said, and what I've actually realised, if I don't ask you, it's never going to happen. He said, but if I ask you, it's the worst. What's the worst you can say? The worst you can say is no. And he said, would you like to do something together? And I was like, have I manifested that in like 24 hours? So it's kind of like, I think it is, we kind of know, don't we? Once we write it in paper, that it kind of helps to come alive.
Absolutely, and I can help explain how that works from a neuroscience point of view in our brain. Is and something that I learned from NLP is that you get what you focus on. And we've got something in the brain called a reticular activating system, which helps us because, we're bombarded with, loads of things all the time. And our brain basically inhibits most of what, we see around us, hear, we know that. Otherwise, we wouldn't function very well if it didn't do that. And so by you laser focusing on what you want, then more likely to recognize the opportunities that fit in with the command that you've given your brain. So yeah, it definitely works. The brain, responds to commands, and there is, science behind that, and how that works. And I've just gone into a tiny bit there.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot, isn't there? But yeah, it is, and it's kind of like we say, don't we? We write your goals down because it makes them happen. 73%, I think it is, more likely to happen if you write your goals down, or you focus on, yeah, what we focus on, we get. So when you made the shift
Mhm.
from corporate to like a small business, like I've never been in corporate at all. So like can you explain to anybody who's sat in corporate and they're kind of wondering whether small business would be for them, what advice would you give them? What would you say is the biggest difference?
Okay. And funny enough, I've written about this in my book, The Brighter Thinking Coach, because it was a shock when I sort of, yeah, was suddenly on my own at home, starting my business, all excited, all motivated. And then suddenly it was like, oh, I didn't feel as motivated and I don't feel like me. And I wasn't sure what was going on. And what I recognized eventually was that I needed to let go of the corporate me of what work was for
Okay.
me. Work was hard sell, getting targets and all the rest of it, which of course it still can be. And but also there was the big social aspect of work. I'd always worked around people, being it was very, very face to face. There was a lot of hospitality. And suddenly I didn't have any of that anymore. And I didn't have the big brand. And I also worked for BAFTA, which was another thing that I guess was a vision of mine, being on the red carpet, which I did. But suddenly, you've got these prestigious brands, and suddenly it's just you. And it's like, oh. And it took me a while to recognize that I had to let go of my identity of being a corporate employee and actually create a new one of
Okay.
what work was. And suddenly, oh, I can be really creative, even more, than I was. And there's no boundaries, and I can do what I like. And that did take time.
Okay.
And I've since, like you, I do mentor and I do supervise other professional coaches. And it's a common thread that people say that it can be very lonely when you start off. And, I went to networking events. I also started my own because I quite like to lead. So that helped. And so it was about finding my new way. But of course, the big thing that I think not enough people talk about when they leave corporate world is that suddenly you haven't got that guaranteed salary on that day of the month. And it's like, oh, wow, I realized how much I took that for granted.
That's
And I think,
yeah.
yeah, it's probably people do.
Are you working harder than ever, but feeling like you're getting nowhere? You're not alone. Most business owners I speak to feel trapped in their own success, working 60 hours plus a week, missing family time, and honestly, they're not even sure why they feel so stuck. They just know something needs to change. If this sounds familiar, I've created a quick quiz to help you find out why you feel stuck in your business. It takes only 2 minutes and I give you clarity on exactly what's keeping you trapped and, more importantly, how to break free. The link's in the description, so why not take it now?
That's really interesting because, like, as I say, I've never been in corporate, but I did go from a salaried position in an electrical contractors to being self-employed. And I did it as a single parent. So, like, literally the risk that, it was always, it's not just the roof over my head I was risking, it was the roof over my daughter's. And I think that gave me drive to ensure it worked.
Mm.
But yeah, that corporate cushion of like knowing that your salary is coming at the end of the month, how did you handle that moving forward?
And not always very good. I'll openly admit it. Um, and I think that's a big part of my sort of money mindset story um, as well. But then I did sort of give myself challenges because when I was in London, and even I think the last place I lived in London, and I really jumped up on how much I was paying in rent, and it was a beautiful flat. But it was a big ask, and like as you said, I had to make it work, and and for that not to be a stress. So I think that yeah, burning your boats is that fable of the Spanish, I think, which supposedly didn't happen at all, but making sure that you have to step up as long as it's not too much of a massive stretch. That helps. But I think one of the success or the secrets of my success, I would say, in the longevity, because I've worked on my own for this long, through the highs and lows and through all the recessions and the
Yeah.
COVID and the this, that, and the other. And by the way, everyone, if you're thinking of starting a new business, there was always something.
Of course there
Somebody
is.
will always, oh, it's not the right time. There's never the right time. You just have to
No,
come on and do it.
always a
Um,
time.
but my thing is that I say yes, even if I don't know how to do it. And so
Okay.
opportunities that come my way, it's that yes, and I'll figure it out how. And that has served me very well.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? Sometimes it's saying yes to the bigger things. Like I remember being asked to speak at the biggest event that I've ever spoke at, and I said yes. And
Mm.
then I got off the call and I was like, what have I just done? I'm not, and that's when your self-sabotaging kicks in, isn't it? It's like you've got to make sure that your mindset is not, I can't do this. It's what do I need to do to make this happen? That's kind of like what we
Yeah.
need to kind of think. But yeah, it is sometimes, yeah, just saying yes and figuring it out. I think a lot of business owners do that. We just don't, people don't admit it. They want to look like they've got everything, holding everything together. But actually, honesty sometimes makes you more approachable anyway, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And you said something wonderful there in that it's that how, because it's, again, back to how our brain works. The brain likes to solve challenges. And you know, a lot of people, they sort of, oh, I've got a problem. And that word problem, ooh, no, because it's not good. Oh, I've got a challenge. Now, suddenly our brain can be like, oh, how do we solve this? And so, how can I make this work? Or how can I speak in front of 500 people, which I have done? You know, what's that going to be like? And trusting yourself. But there is that, as I say, it's this that level of stretch where it is stretch and you're in the flow, and growing, and where that, you know, I love that phrase, the magic is just outside your comfort zone. But then there's knowing what is realistic as well, and what actually, no, that's going to be too much or just not possible at the moment as well.
Yes,
Those
I think it
boundaries.
is. It's understanding the difference between your gut feeling and your irrational fear. Like literally, like talking to yourself and like, is this just irrational fear that's not really, it's not serving me? It usually has a bigger voice than your gut feeling, doesn't it? Your gut feeling tells you slowly and like nicely and stuff. And yeah, this irrational fear comes with this big, huge story that, there's everything, the world's going to fall apart. And I feel like for me, every time I've stretched myself, finding that inner voice and understanding whether it is fear or if it is my gut telling me to say yes, I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big believer in trusting our gut instinct or our intuition and knowing where it is, you know. And I'm doing this because mine seems to be around here, but if you can sense where you get those messages, if you hear them or feel them, or if it's something else entirely, so that you know what that is. And intuition can be explained through science as well as the more spiritual aspects, I think. But yeah, trusting that. And I can openly say, Tracy, everything that has gone wrong in my life or has been really hard, difficult, costly, it's been when I haven't listened to my intuition. And I found that a lot with clients as well.
Because I read a book called The Big Leap, not so long back, and it
Yes.
talked about the self-sabotage of like comfortable and like going back to the chaos of comfortable rather than like finding yourself in a better place. And I actually rang my daughter whilst I was on my walk listening to the book, going, I'm a bit traumatized because I feel like I've just realized something about myself in a past thing that I'd done. Selling the accountancy and stuff, something had happened, and it was like this massive realization, and I was like, need to make sure this doesn't happen again. But yeah, so sometimes it is about like understanding the gut, because sometimes we don't hear it, unfortunately, do we? Because it is quite quiet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, but yeah,
So
that's really good insight. So you work with people in corporate, or do you work with people, small businesses now?
I do a mixture because I love variety. I genuinely do, which is where, and again, I'll openly say I've sort of struggled to niche. Um, and it's more about the sort of topics that clients bring. But I have private clients
Yeah.
that come to me. Some, I've never met in person.
Okay.
And even, yeah, 20 years ago, it was coaching by telephone. Can you believe? Unfortunately, I switched to Zoom and other online platforms way before COVID. So,
Me too.
yeah, but yeah, back then. So some I've never met, others it is in person, and then I do have clients through corporates and other affiliates, if you like, where I get clients, and I do work with a lot of small business owners, and in
Okay.
particular, creative small business owners, micro business owners,
Yeah.
who perhaps are artists, photographers, and in that creative space. And it could be around helping them be more focused, get their goals, prioritize, learn about how the brain can help them get things done faster and with zero stress, as well. So sort of just helping them in that space. But also I work with clients where they could be at a crossroads in their life. Maybe it's work, and relationship at the same time. Amazing how often that happens, I find. And they want clarity. They want to know what the next steps are, and helping them, like you said earlier, with that direction. And in the corporate space, it's very much about, as I like to say, helping leaders be the brain-friendly leader that people want to, love working with. So
your business is successful, so why do you feel so miserable? Here's the thing, success doesn't always automatically equal freedom. I see profitable business owners every day who can't take a holiday, who can't switch off, and they feel completely overwhelmed by their own achievements. Sound familiar? Well, I've created a simple quiz that pinpoints exactly why you feel stuck in your business. It will give you the clarity you need to move from being trapped to being free. Why don't you take the quiz now? The link's in the description below.
From a money mindset point of view, like when you said working with creative people, we're not all the same. And I mean, as an accountant, I'm a creative person, and it kind of like it contradicts like my whole personal life against my professional life. But generally, they're known for being quite like chaotic and unorganized. And I wonder that doesn't help them with their money mindset and things, because their left brain, kind of like is doing the work for them. Like, do you find that as well when you're working with creative people?
yes, and it's amazing, I think, how often, and not just creative people, because I've seen this with other coaches as well. Because something else, when, we're working for ourselves, we have to get the money in. We have to send an invoice. And I find, as in frequently, that is a sticking point for many business owners. And I remember it too, that suddenly, I've got to send an invoice. And I think I delayed it a little bit. I remember sort of lead trainer saying to me, "Oh, Rachel, you've done the work. You send the invoice." Oh, okay, yeah. And I've seen that so often, that people can be doing, well, work for a company or, a client for 3 months or more and never sending an invoice. Or coaches where they've asked for, or they get paid after the session or before the session on a more singly. It's not what I do, by the way. And they'll still do the session even though they've got the payment.
Yes.
So I'm always thinking, what's that saying about your money mindset?
Self-worth. That's about self-worth.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say I'm brilliant in this, but I set my business up to not happen. So my clients pay me a monthly fee on the first of every month, and it works really well because Stripe take the payment, and it works really well until somebody doesn't pay. And I am going to admit that phone call is so uncomfortable for me. So uncomfortable. And I usually use it saying, look, I've set the business up like this because this is uncomfortable for me. So I don't want to ask you for money. I expect to be paid. And it's kind of like so many business owners, though, like you say, you've done the work. Like, you need to get paid for the work. But to actually have a structure in your business, if you really feel that that's always going to be uncomfortable for you, and it's always uncomfortable for me asking for money. Once the accountant business was up and running, absolutely fine. I had people doing that. I never had to ask for money. It was so easy. But now I'm back to being me. I had to find a way to ensure that I didn't not ask for the money. And it was really difficult. And so, yeah, if anyone is in that, stop charging per session. Find retainer clients that can pay you, because when you've done the work, that self-worth thing, that negative thing that says, what if they don't pay? Well, they're not paying already. It's got to be addressed, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think it's a rite of passage for when you start your own business, that you go through this and you learn. And I get paid in advance, and sort of do it that way, or people can pay me by installments. But I honestly think it's about taking the emotion out and just being very factual on the emails and being very separate. I always send an invoice, it will be a separate to anything else, and that it gets sorted. And I always like to pay on time
I do.
myself. And heaven forbid if there's been times where cash flow hasn't, and I can't, that is a stress for me, because that's about my values of who I am and how I like to operate. So it can come up in so many different ways, but overcoming it is key, absolutely, and finding ways, as you have, that you can deal with it. And of course, a lot of people then maybe outsource themselves to, like in my world, in the coaching world, to platforms where they do all of that for you. But of course, yeah, if you're doing that way, you're always going to get less money for you, and the marketing and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's I think we can do a lot of training and do a lot about our craft, what we do. But I do think it's essential to learn about the business side of the business,
Yes.
and the money side. And, sometimes I have to say, Tracy, I wish I'd done accountancy training or things like that as well. However, let's have the experts do that, which is why you're great at what you do.
I think it's important. Thank you. I think it's important that these kind of things are addressed at school age. I think there's so and I know some schools have taken this on board. They're starting to do it now. It's not like when you and I were at school, we learned trigonometry. We didn't learn about budgeting. And I think it's so important to teach. So the other day, my grandchildren were in the back of the car and one of them had £1. So my partner, had taken it out of the trolley and she'd taken it off him and she had this £1. And I said, she's 5. And I said, do you know how much that's worth? No, not at all. And so I said to her, that's worth 100 pennies. I said, that's £1 that. And then I gave her a 10p. And I said, that's 10 of these is worth one of those. And she had them both in her hand. And then I said, which one's got more value? And she went, the 10p because it's bigger. No, like, oh dear, I am not doing my grandma duties very well at all. And I think children don't see cash anymore. It just so happened to be in the car. And yeah. I think understanding the value is going to be so much more important to children of this generation. Like, we saw cash. Yes, we didn't do budgeting, but we kind of understood the value of money from actually spending it. These guys aren't going to see that at all. It's all a card.
Yeah. And the brain quite literally doesn't register the spending when you're just clicking a button or just swiping the card. And I'm like you, I'd love to see more of budgeting, money, life skills even taught in schools. And I remember, and I can still remember, my maths lesson with Miss Pike, as she was called, as a teenager in secondary school, where we did currency. And I loved that because I could relate to it, because I was fortunate that I was taken across to Europe camping. Yes. And so currency was very real, and I could, it made sense to me. And I think the more we can help people and children, use and learn about money and other things in a way that's going to be relevant for them as they live their life, not these abstract concepts.
No, definitely. Is that where your love of travel came from then? Your trips as a child?
Yes, I think so. How old was I? About 7 or 8. And when I went across to Europe, and you're right, actually, because we didn't know where we were going. Both my parents were in secondary school teachers, so we're very lucky to have those big long holidays in August. And we went across, I think, for about 3.5 weeks. And they had a rough idea of maybe where, but we traveled across the countries in Western Europe. And I do really value, and I'm so grateful for those opportunities, because I got to see so much that I wouldn't have seen, especially even if I was on a plane.
Yes.
And I'm very comfortable not knowing what's going to happen, where I'm going to end up. And a couple of years ago, I became a digital nomad, and lived in Turkey and Bulgaria, Gibraltar, out of a suitcase, and even sharing a suitcase with my fiance. We didn't even take one each. But I have to say,
Wow.
though, after a year, I was sick of the
Please tell me
clump.
you had more room than he did in that suitcase, though.
Maybe I did have a bit more,
Yeah.
and I had my Pilates mat with me. I still can't believe I took that all everywhere as well. So yeah, but yeah, so I'm quite happy with that. I do love staying in hotels where there's nothing there, no clutter and distractions.
No distractions. That's what I would really like about a hotel. So which was your favourite part? Where was your favourite place where you visited in your travels?
Oh, that's so hard to say because I think it can depend on how you feel at the time and what you're looking for. But I was very impressed with Sofia, which is the capital of Bulgaria. And who knew it's got the world's fourth fastest Wi-Fi?
Wow.
Who knew? Didn't know that. Yeah.
That's really
And
interesting.
yeah, and it really is. It's so much faster than the UK. And yeah, that seemed very up and coming. And I think because also we've been living in a little village in Turkey, suddenly we were in a city where there was a choice of restaurants and very cosmopolitan and all the rest of it. So, but I would recommend Turkey and Bulgaria to anyone. And we actually got a train from Turkey into Bulgaria overnight, which was an adventure.
Sounds
So
like an
yeah,
adventure too. That's lovely. Never thought about doing things like that. But yeah, so well, thank you. I just want so for people who are interested in NLP or and the brighter thinking, like where can they find you, Rachel?
thanks, Tracy. So you can find me at rachelbamber.com, RachelBamber.com. I have my book, The Brighter Thinking Coach, which is aimed at professional coaches, but useful for anybody having meetings and all sorts. That is available worldwide on Amazon. And also love to connect on LinkedIn. That's my social media that I seem to be on, and it's Rachel Bamber Brighter Thinking, where you'll find me there.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed speaking to you today, and I'd love to speak to you more about your travels. And yeah, I'll thank you very much for everyone that's listened. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you for watching to the end. I really appreciate it, and it shows that you are serious about moving your business forward. I want to share something with you. When I was little, I watched my mum skip meals so my brother and I could eat because she didn't have enough money to feed us all. That pain changed everything. I promised myself I would never need to rely on anyone else financially. I worked relentlessly towards financial independence. Even as a young parent of 19, I still worked. And once I achieved financial independence, I became passionate that everyone deserves the same. But here's what I've discovered. Successful business owners can feel financially trapped just in a different way. And that's why I created the Money Metrics Academy to help you understand your essential business numbers in under an hour a week. No jargon, no overwhelm, just the clarity you need for true financial independence. Why not join the free entry-level membership and see how the community can help you? Let's get unstuck together.